Alright, what's going on, guys? It is your boy TKD Winter here, back here in PlayStation Source. And have you ever wondered how exactly Kratos got to be the god of war? Because of course in Greek mythology, historically speaking, Ares is considered of course the main god of war. However, with the release of the God of War series on PlayStation consoles, it really comes to pass as to how exactly did Kratos become the god of war. And so I wanted to do a little something different on the channel, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this whole idea. I'm gonna go over a little bit of the lore and background behind how exactly Kratos became the god of war. And before we get into it, guys, make sure to leave a like on the video as well as stay subscribed to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. That one, of course, you can find links to our Twitter, our Discord, as well as an Anchor link. That way you can listen to our long form content and podcast format. That, of course, being Road to Ghost of Tsushima and a brand new Road 2 series debuting this week. Also, hit that join button or the link below in the description to become a PlayStation Source member of the channel. You get exclusive access to different emojis and channel badges on streams and stuff like that. Also, you get a shout out for every single video. Shout out to my boy Owen for that King tier for $5 or the Prince tier for $1. Being born in the Greek city-state of Sparta, Kratos is a demigod son of Zeus and a mortal woman named Callisto, although he would remain unaware of who his father was for most of his life. Outraged at Zeus for fathering yet another bastard child, Hera ordered Kratos' execution on the day he was born, but the king of the gods took pity on the child and refused, leaving him in Sparta to be raised by Callisto. Like all Spartan youth, Kratos was monitored and trained for combat by the Spartan authorities. Those who were deemed fit were to stay and be trained as Spartan warriors, while those who were deemed unfit would be sent to the mountains to fend for themselves. Already feisty and aggressive at a young age, Kratos trained together with his younger brother Deimos as they dreamed of joining the Spartan army when they grew up. But the story of Kratos' brother is a whole other story and a whole other video. As Kratos came of age, he became a respected member of the Spartan army, eventually marrying Lysandra and having a daughter, Calliope. As a general, Kratos won battles through brutal but effective tactics. However, his pride and hunger for power grew greater with every victory. Despite Lysandra's pleas, Kratos vowed to continue his bloody conquest, quote, until the glory of Sparta is known throughout the world, spending time with his family only when he was able to return to Sparta. Kratos and his army finally met their match when they encountered the merciless barbarian tribe from the east, led by Kratos' old enemy, Alaric. Outnumbered and overpowered, the Spartans quickly found themselves on the losing end of the battle, with Kratos himself left at the mercy of Alaric the barbarian king, who sought revenge against Kratos for inadvertently causing the death of his father. In desperation, Kratos called out to Ares, the god of war, pledging his allegiance in exchange for victory. Ares accepted the offer, proceeding to kill all the barbarians, including Alaric, and giving Kratos the Blades of Chaos as a sign of his servitude. For a time, Kratos served Ares loyally, raiding villages, slaughtering innocents, and spreading chaos in his name. Under the god of war's influence, Kratos became utterly ruthless and gradually lost any semblance of the humanity he once had. One day, during a raid on a village of Athena's followers, Ares secretly transported Lysandra and Calliope to a nearby temple. Ignoring the village oracle's warnings, Kratos entered the temple and slaughtered everybody inside it in a fit of blind rage, including his wife and child, whom he believed were still in Sparta. Ares justified this as a means of severing Kratos' remaining attachments to the world of mortals, thereby molding him into the perfect warrior. Stricken with horror and grief at what he had done, Kratos left the bodies of his family to be burned within the temple, ultimately renouncing his allegiance to the god of war. The oracle cursed Kratos, forcing him to forever wear the ashes of his dead family on his skin. From that day forward, Kratos became known as the Ghost of Sparta, his skin now pale as the moon from the ashes that coated him. To other mortals, he was now marked by his ghostly white skin. The knowledge of his past actions often repulsed them to the point where they would rather die than allow him to save their lives. He became known as a personification of cruelty and selfishness. In the events before God of War 1, Kratos deals with the Furies that were sent by Ares himself to force him back into the service for the God of War, but that's a whole other video we'll cover in the future. Moving on. The nightmares Kratos had committed followed him wherever he went as they tormented his mind. The nightmares of all the innocent license he took, as well as the killing of his wife and daughter by his hand. Distraught, he approached one of Athena's statues and asked her when he would be freed from his past. She told Kratos that his final task would be to find Pandora's box and use the power inside it to destroy Ares. After getting the location of the box via the Athenian oracle, almost getting it but losing it to Ares, he finally gets control of Pandora's box once more in the last battle of God of War 1. Kratos uses the box to grow tremendously in size and gain a substantial amount of power in order to battle Ares on a more even footing. After a vicious fight, Ares traps Kratos in a psychological void where demonic incarcerations of himself attempt to kill phantom versions of his family. Kratos successfully fights them off but watches helplessly as Ares strips him of his blades of chaos and uses them to kill his family again. Kratos, now distraught and vulnerable, nearly met his end at the hands of Ares, but soon took notice of the blade of the gods and used it to finally destroy the god of war. Though his past had been forgiven, the gods refused to relieve him of his nightmares, his last bit of hope taken from him. Kratos attempted to commit suicide by jumping off a cliff. However, Athena had a different plan for the Spartan. She saved his life and offered him the now empty throne of the god of war on Olympus. He accepted the offer, sat upon the fallen god's throne, and became the new god of war. And there we go, guys. Kratos was a young boy on Sparta, and he eventually became a Spartan military member, rose through the ranks, and then ended up having to use Ares to save himself, which then bounded him to a life of serving him. Thus, through serving him, he ended up killing his wife and daughter, and the rest is history as he tries to get revenge on Ares, eventually does it, and then becomes the new god of war in Ares' place. What's also really cool is that this whole backstory also really does detail why Kratos has such an animosity towards gods that we see in God of War 2018 when, he always brings up the fact that, gods are bad, gods are evil, this and the third. And it's not only because of Ares, but it's also because of Athena and her refusing to take away the nightmares that infected Kratos' mind. And although Kratos did a lot of bad things on his road to becoming the god of war, it really is a pretty tragic story when you look at it from Kratos' perspective, and I really do kind of feel for the character in that way to a certain degree. Although, yeah, Kratos, even as a Spartan war military hero, was pretty ruthless in itself. But most importantly, guys, let me know your thoughts on the comments below in the comment section. How do you guys feel about Kratos as a character? Do you think he really did have a tragic, type of upbringing into him becoming the god of war, or do you think he kind of asked for it himself based off of him asking for Ares to help him in that barbarian war? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure also while you are down there to check out our description where you can find our Discord, our Twitter, as well as our Anchor link. That way you can listen to our long form content and podcast format, that of course being Road to Ghost of Tsushima and a brand new Road to series debuting this week. As well as make sure to go hit that join button down below, become a Prince tier or a King tier member, $1 and $5 respectively. Like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.